Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th edition of the Booker. Today, I'm going to be talking about how I would book the WrestleMania 43 match card. So, with this video, I'll just share with you guys the match card, and then after that, I'll share the key details for specific matches. So, to start off with the match card, um, on night one during the countdown, I would have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Now onto the main card for night one. I'll just list it here. Triple H kicks off. Then it's the Usos versus the Lucha Bros versus the Warrior Bros, which is Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, versus the Hardy Boys for the WWE Tag Team Champions or Championship in a ladder match. Then it's AJ Lee versus Roxanne Perez, and Roxanne Perez here is the women's Money in the Bank contract holder. Then it's Bronson Reed versus Austin Theory for the Intercontinental title. Then Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill for the women's U.S. title. Then Seth Rollins versus Solo Sikoa in a street fight. Bad Bunny versus Logan Paul. Gunther versus Randy Orton with Randy Orton's career on the line. Liv Morgan versus Naomi versus Becky Lynch versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship in a Fatal 4-Way match. And then we have a segment where it's IShowSpeed, Danhausen, LA Knight, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And now with this segment, IShowSpeed, he comes out, he announces the attendance, and he goes on how he's been training for a WWE return where he's going to really start focusing on WWE and becoming the greatest WWE superstar of all time. But in order for him to do that, he asked to be uncursed first by Danhausen. So out comes Danhausen. He tells him that if he wants to be uncursed, all he has to do is do one thing. And then out comes LA Knight, a returning LA Knight here. And he tells IShowSpeed that in order for the cursed to, or in order for him to be uncursed, he has to tell him thank you, which IShowSpeed does. And now LA Knight says that he has to do one thing for Danhausen, and that's for IShowSpeed to feature Danhausen in one of his videos. So it's not as many favors that Danhausen was originally asking for. LA Knight was able to kind of make a deal with Danhausen because obviously LA Knight, now that he's back, he doesn't want IShowSpeed to be getting involved in his business, because it seemed like when IShowSpeed was cursed, he was always interfering in some way with LA Knight. So all that IShowSpeed has to do is just feature Danhausen in one of his videos. IShowSpeed, he's really tempted not to, but he doesn't know what to do for sure. And in the end, IShowSpeed, he kind of pulls a heel move, and he says, you know what, I'm IShowSpeed. I'm one of the greatest YouTubers of all time. I'm one of the greatest athletes of all time, and I'm going to become one of the greatest WWE superstars of all time. And this curse isn't real. Basically something like that. And he goes on to say that I believe I can take on anybody. And when I say anybody, I mean anybody. And then Danhausen goes, uh-oh. And then out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. We hear the glass shatter. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, he asked the fans if he should open a can of whoop-ass on IShowSpeed. Danhausen yells, hell. And then LA Knight yells, yeah. And then Stone Cold says, what? And then it goes back and forth. Hell yeah, what? Then IShowSpeed, he ends up doing a signature bark. And he says, look, I don't want any trouble. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's like, you know what? I have a lot of respect for what you do. Let's drink a beer. So as it looks like they're going to toast and drink some beer, Broken Skull beer, Stone Cold Steve Austin ends up hitting IShowSpeed with a Stone Cold Stunner. And that leads directly into the BFT. So now IShowSpeed, he's out of the ring, and now it's LA Knight, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Danhausen in the same ring together. As they're about to smash the beers together, Danhausen, he tells him to wait, and he gets his signature coffee house in, and he does the smash or whatever with the coffee house in, drinks it, and then as he throws it, the kind of firework pops up, and then as he thinks he disappears, he obviously doesn't, but then he runs out of the ring, and now it's just LA Knight and Stone Cold Steve Austin in the same ring, and they smash the beers together and blah blah blah. And once an LA Knight's about to leave the ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin turns on them around, and they have an intense face-to-face. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin ends up extending his hand, and they shake hands. And Stone Cold Steve Austin raises LA Knight's hand and puts him over. So obviously, this will then lead to LA Knight becoming a future world champion in that year, 2027. But obviously, that's just one segment that I'd have here for night one of WrestleMania 43. And now moving on to the main event of night one, you got Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk for the undisputed WWE Championship. Now moving on to night two during the countdown to WrestleMania, I'd have the China Memorial Battle Royal, the first ever one. And now on to the main show for night two. I'd have Stephanie McMahon kick off. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but for night one, I'd have Triple H kick off. But anyway, after Stephanie McMahon kicks off, we see Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair for the WWE Women's Championship. Then after that, it's Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio versus Rey Mysterio in a hair versus mask match inside Hell in a Cell. Then Chad Gable versus Montez Ford for the U.S. title. Kurt Angle is by Chad Gable's side. Then Stephanie Vaquer versus Julia for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Then Obafemi versus Jacob Fatu. Then the Bella Twins versus Trish Stratus, and Lita for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Then Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn for the World Heavyweight Championship. Then there's a segment where it's The Miz and Grayson Waller. I do believe they'll end up becoming a duo. And obviously you have Miz TV and the Grayson Waller effect. And with WrestleMania 43 potentially being the biggest WrestleMania of all time, I'd have the two shows come together and you get the Awesome Effect. So the first guest on the Awesome Effect for the very first edition of the Awesome Effect is none other than Mr. Beast. With this, obviously, there was Beastland. Mr. Beast used to have Beastland in Saudi Arabia. Maybe the Miz brings up that, or just tensions, of course, rise between the two. And Mr. Beast mentions how obviously Beastland used to be in Saudi Arabia, and he knows there's a ton of Beast in Saudi Arabia. And since WrestleMania 43 is in Saudi Arabia, he happened to run into a Beast in particular, and this Beast isn't just any Beast. With this. This particular Beast, he told Mr. Beast that if he needed his help for this occasion, he'd have his back. And obviously this Beast isn't just any Beast. It's none other than the Beast. And out comes Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar helps Mr. Beast take out The Miz and Grayson Waller. Now, I gotta believe that Brock Lesnar, I think he'll retire at SummerSlam 2026. In his hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. But I believe he'll receive a big payday to show up at WrestleMania 43 in Saudi Arabia, and I feel like this would be a good way. You could even have Brock Lesnar come out with a shirt that has the Brock Lesnar logo and the Beast, and then under that, Mr. Beast logo and Mr. Beast across. Something like that, but you get the collaboration of the Beast and Mr. Beast. I think it'd be a fun segment. But moving on, it's the Hall of Fame class inductions. I'd have John Cena, the GOAT, and then Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, or Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25. That's like the GOAT match. and then the Hardy Boys, and they'd be the newly crowned WWE Tag Team Champions. And yeah, that's the GOAT Tag Team. So it's a stacked Hall of Fame card. Obviously, there's more inductees, but those are just kind of the main ones on my mind right now. And then after that, the main event, The Rock versus Roman Reigns. I believe this is when we'll finally get that match, the big money-making match. But that's the match card that I have, and now I'll explain the key details for specific matches. So, with the Usos versus the Lucha Bros versus the Warrior Bros versus the Hardy Boys. Sorry. Allergies are getting me. I have the Usos as the World Tag Team or WWE Tag Team Champion or World Tag Team Champions, and the Lucha Bros end up confronting them, saying that they want the titles, and they say, "Hey, let's put on the greatest tag team match of all time." Then out comes the Warrior Bros, and they're the WWE Tag Team Champions, and they say, "Oh, this is going to be the greatest match of all time. If that's so, then you got to include us." And then out comes the returning Hardy Boys, and it'd be similar to how the Hardy Boys returned 10 years before this in a Fatal 4-Way ladder match. And the Hardy Boys, it can be like, we want one last WWE run. And at WrestleMania, I believe they combine the titles. I think that makes sense, especially with today's tag team division. The men and women have the same amount of titles. So the women obviously have the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. The men can just simply have the WWE Tag Team titles and combine those two titles. So obviously in the end, the Hardy Boys, they become the new WWE Tag Team Champions, and they go on to have one last run in WWE. Then for AJ Lee versus Roxanne Perez, obviously Roxanne Perez is the Money in the Bank contract holder. I would have her cash in her Money in the Bank during the Women's World Championship match, during that Fatal 4-Way match. And with that Fatal 4-Way match, I'd have Naomi win the Elimination Chamber, and she can be like, "I'm here to win back the title that I never lost." And then Becky Lynch and Io Sky, Io Sky eliminates Becky Lynch from the Royal Rumble, and then Becky Lynch Becky Lynch then eliminates Io Sky from the Royal Rumble, which then leads to Io Sky costing Becky Lynch the Elimination Chamber qualifying match, or vice versa. And this leads to a number one contenders match on the Raw after Elimination Chamber, and the winner gets added to the Women's World Championship match between Liv and Naomi. And this ends in like a double count out or something, and then both ladies end up getting added to the title match. And with this, Becky Lynch can be like, "This is the biggest WrestleMania of all time. The man deserves to be in the world title picture." And Io Sky Becky Lynch can kind of like bully Io Sky away. And I'd like to see then Rhea Ripley as the WWE Women's Championship confront Io Sky and be like, "Hey, you're Io Sky. You got this." And maybe there's a goal that they each can become world champions together. But obviously with this match, I think it'd be fitting for Becky and Io. They're like on the outside in the crowd. Maybe they go through a table, so they're both out. And then Roxanne Perez comes down, throws Naomi out of the ring, who was once the Money in the Bank contract holder, and then Roxanne Perez pins Liv Morgan to become the new Women's World Championship. Then Bronson Reed versus Austin Theory. I'll actually get to that later. I'll kind of mix in everything or tie in everything that I have in mind with these other matches. But Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill, I believe. Alexa Bliss will soon betray Charlotte Flair. Then Alexa will beat Charlotte Flair. Charlotte's out for a while. Alexa Bliss wins the U.S. title. Charlotte Flair comes back, takes the U.S. title off of Alexa, and then Jade Cargill then ends up taking out Charlotte Flair, and that leads to their match at WrestleMania. Gunther versus Randy Orton. They're both in the undisputed WWE title picture. I believe they'll cross paths where Randy, maybe he wins number 15 and now wants to win number 16. Gunther kind of stops that from happening and tells him if he wants to prove that he's the legend killer, then put his career on the line. And that obviously leads to a match at WrestleMania, and I'd have Randy Orton kill the legend of the career killer at WrestleMania. It'd be a big win for Randy Orton. Let's see. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. I've shared a lot about this match in the Booker 6, number 6. But with this match, Rey Mysterio wins due to Bad Bunny using the brass knuckles to hit Dominic Mysterio as he's trying to escape through the crowd. So Bad Bunny helps Rey Mysterio, and before this, on night 1, Bad Bunny, Logan Paul attempted to hit Bad Bunny with the brass knuckles. Bad Bunny dodged, and then ended up defeating Logan Paul because he hit a low blow, which caused Logan Paul to drop the brass knuckles, and then Bad Bunny hit the Bunny Destroyer on him to win the match. And Bad Bunny kept the brass knuckles, so that's how Bad Bunny has the brass knuckles here for Rey versus Dom. But with this, Dominic Mysterio and Logan Paul both believe that they got cheated out of their matches. So this ultimately leads to a tag team match where it's Rey and Bad Bunny versus Logan Paul and Dominic Mysterio. And there's a lot more to that, but you can check all that out in the Booker number 6. Then Chad Gable versus Montez Ford. I also shared about how Kurt Angle joins Chad Gable. It's in one of the earlier videos. Can't remember exactly what video number it was, but Chad Gable, he's the U.S. champion here. He walks in and he doesn't believe that he has to defend his title in Saudi Arabia. He doesn't feel like they deserve it, and he's the U.S. champion. And then Montez Ford comes out to confront him and tells him that he's a disgrace to the U.S. Title. And Chad Gable questions him who he thinks he is to talk to a U.S. Olympian like that. And Montez Ford screams at him and says, "I'm a U.S. Marine." And this ultimately leads to their match taking place at WrestleMania. It's the U.S. Olympian versus the U.S. Marine. And Montez Ford can be like, as a U.S. Marine, I defend this country wherever we need to go. And as a United States champion, I'll defend that title anywhere for the WWE. Something like that. But you get the U.S. Olympian versus the U.S. Marine for the U.S. Championship. I think it'd be a fitting match. Next is Oba versus Jacob Fatu. That's just a big money-making match. That's a dream match that I personally want to see. The Bella Twins versus Trish Stratus and Lita. I do believe Brie Bella and Paige will lose the tag team titles, and then Nikki Bella will turn heel on Paige. The Bella Twins end up winning the tag team titles. Maybe this leads to AJ Lee versus Paige, or AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bella Twins for the tag team titles. Bellas win, and they just go on this roll, and they're like, no one can stop us. And then out comes Trish Stratus and Lita, and we end up getting that dream match of the Bellas versus Team Bestie at WrestleMania 43 for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. Let's see. Now on to kind of what I was talking about earlier with Braun Strowman and Austin Theory. I'm going to tie all these matches together. So obviously in the Booker number 1, I talked about how at Crown Jewel, it's Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for the Crown Jewel Championship. It's champion versus champion. OTC 1 versus QB 1, who's number 1. And I believe it'd be very fitting for this match to take place here, especially because it's around the same time the movie Street Fighter releases, which they are both in. And obviously, I had it where The Rock returns here. Cody Rhodes sells his soul to The Rock. The Rock betrays Roman Reigns. And then the Money in the Bank contract holder ends up cashing in his Money in the Bank contract on Roman Reigns and becoming the new World Heavyweight Championship. And this is after Cody Rhodes defeated Roman Reigns. And that Money in the Bank contract holder is Braun Breaker. And with this, we end up getting the duo of The Rock and Paul Heyman. The Rock, he sees, obviously, Cody Rhodes as his champion. And The Rock sees Braun Breaker as the future of WWE. And The Rock believes that they both will help reshape WWE and his image. And this leads to Survivor Series War Games. We see Cody Rhodes and Braun Breaker as both world champions, along with the rest of the division. And then for Roman Reigns, he has the Usos and Jacob Fatu. I'd like to see this play out where the Division, they take out the Usos. So now it's just Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. And the three other partners for this team is CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins. Now, CM Punk, I can just see him returning out of hate for Cody Rhodes now that he has sold out. And then Sami Zayn, I shared a lot about this in the Booker number 7. Sami Zayn, he contemplates about retiring and ends up actually saying that he's going to retire. And then Kevin Owens returns and convinces him to stay in WWE and that he'll help him become a world champion and be by his side. But Sami Zayn, he joins Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, CM Punk, because it's just the best thing for him to do. That's just how he's wired. And Kevin Owens, he shares how he doesn't know if that's a good idea, but Sami Zayn does it anyway. Then for Seth Rollins, I'd like to see this play out where Sami Zayn helps get Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins to team together. So you have those 5 versus the other 5, which would be, their name would be Team Corporate. And The Rock actually trademarked this a couple of years ago, so I think it makes sense. And I'd like to see just an all-out brawl between the two teams, and maybe Seth Rollins, he takes out Austin Theory and injures him. And I'd like to then see The Rock call Paul Heyman and tell him that Solo Sikoa will be replacing Austin Theory. And maybe Roman Reigns and the Usos, they end up like taking out Solo Sikoa and the rest of the MFT like months earlier. And then maybe this is how Solo Sikoa returns. And maybe The Rock can make it a mission for Solo Sikoa to take out Seth Rollins, do anything in his power to take him out. And so you have that match. And then after Survivor Series, I'd like to see this play out where Austin Theory, he returns. Logan Paul and Austin Theory, they're the tag team champions. And maybe the Usos, they win back the titles from them. And now the vision starts to kind of turn on Austin Theory. And this is where we end up getting Bronson Reed versus Austin Theory at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental title. This would be Austin Theory's babyface turn, which I believe is long awaited. And originally, Bronson Reed, he kind of brought Austin Theory into the Vision, and Austin Theory's first match with the Vision was with Bronson Reed. So I think it'd be a full circle moment, and I believe this match would be similar to Big Show versus John Cena for the U.S. title back in 2004 at WrestleMania, and it'd just be a fresh reset, I believe, for Austin Theory. But so I'd have Austin Theory winning that match. And as for Seth Rollins versus Solo Sikoa, maybe Solo Sikoa, he really makes a submission, makes it personal with Seth Rollins. And as Seth Rollins is in the Royal Rumble, Solo Sikoa eliminates him when he's not even in the Rumble. And, you just build this personal rivalry between the two. And Solo Sikoa, he can be like, I did it for The Rock. And I believe that'd be so fitting because Solo's father, Rikishi, said the exact same thing. I did it for The Rock. And Seth Rollins, he can be like, they call you the street champion, right? How about at WrestleMania, it's you and me in a street fight? And I believe this would actually be a potential show stealer. And I believe it'd be a great match. Now for Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk, the story writes itself. I'd have CM Punk winning the Royal Rumble and obviously choosing Cody Rhodes, and we finally get that dream match at WrestleMania 43 Night 1. Then for Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn, I'd like to see Sami Zayn kind of get ahead of himself and join Team Roman when Kevin Owens told him not to, and this ends up leaving Sami Zayn in a predicament where the Vision, they just don't stop attacking him. They maybe cost him the Royal Rumble, just anything really. But I'd like to see Kevin Owens end up helping Sami Zayn end up winning the Elimination Chamber in his hometown. So now you get Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn for the world title at WrestleMania. But during the build to this match, I'd like to see like Braun Breaker maybe spear Kevin Owens through the barricade or something. Just injure him, take him out, where he's on the bench even longer. And then at WrestleMania, you question, will Kevin Owens return to turn heel on Sami Zayn or help him? So you just keep building that story there. But in the end, I'd have Kevin Owens help Sami Zayn win the world title. It'd just be such a feel-good story for Sami Zayn. To witness Sami Zayn take spear after spear, and just these brutal spears by Braun Breaker, and still kicking out, still has life left in him. And even maybe the Vision gets involved. But then in the end, Sami Zayn's best friend, Kevin Owens, makes his return and helps Sami Zayn finally become world champion. Then obviously you have The Rock versus Roman Reigns. This is the dream match that we all want. And I believe WrestleMania 43 will be the place that we finally see this match take place. But that's all I got. And one more thing for the Andre the Giant and Memorial Battle Royal and China Memorial Battle Royal. With the WrestleMania being 2 nights, I think it'd make plenty of sense to have the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on night 1, and then now introducing a women's Memorial Battle Royal, which is the China Memorial Battle Royal, on night 2. So on night 1, you have the 8th Wonder of the World Memorial Battle Royal. As Andre, he's the 8th Wonder of the World. And then on night 2, during the countdown, you have the China Memorial Battle Royal, and as she is the 9th Wonder of the World. So I think it'd make plenty of sense, just have one match on each night during the countdown. But that's all I got. Oh, I got to mention for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and China Memorial Battle Royal, to make these matches feel marquee and big time, you can obviously have newer and younger superstars, active superstars that maybe just didn't make the main card, or even legends or celebrities in this match. And, it only feels right to have Danhausen winning this particular Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. This would be his big moment. It'd be fitting, especially when it ties into his segment later that night on the main card, which involves IShowSpeed, LA Knight, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, obviously. It'd be so hilarious seeing Danhausen coming down in his mini car with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal trophy in the back of his mini car or trunk or whatever. But, I just feel like it'd be the perfect moment for Danhausen. But overall, for this match card, it breaks the record for most matches on a Mania match card with 17, the previous record being 16. I think it'd be fitting for WrestleMania 43 to have that record, especially since it's in Saudi Arabia. But with this match card, all titles are defended, and I believe the first hour for each night is done right. You have, for each night, one men's match and one women's match. You have a match involving a ladder match, a match involving the women's Money in the Bank contract, a match involving or taking place inside Hell in a Cell, which is a mask versus hair match, and then arguably the biggest women's match of all time in Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. So, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.